Okay, hi, good morning, and my name is Louise. I'll be the facilitator today. Um, First, I want to say that racism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New
Oh,
Orleans in. Huh?
my cat was biting me. Sorry.
Oh, that was. Oh, that was formed in New Orleans in the summer of 1993. We
Ah,
seek we seek ways through person to person communication to show that we are committed to treating all human beings with love, respect, empathy, compassion, and humility. Join us. Erace is an organization that does not espouse any political party, and we have no religious affiliation. We believe in acceptance of all people, and no personal attacks of any kind will be tolerated. We come with the intention to listen, learn, and not to argue. The land acknowledgement. We begin today by acknowledging that what we know as the United States is the ancestral and unceded territory of many indigenous peoples, and that there are many more nations and tribes that could be named here. Members of our meeting group today are on the lands of the Chitimacha and Choctaw in New Orleans, the Creeks, Cherokees in Atlanta, the Tonkawan, Lipan Apache, and Comanche in Austin. I think that's it for our group, to be honest. We thank their ancestors for being stewards of these lands through the generations and through today. We need to protect and honor the history and people of these places. Despite centuries of colonial theft and violence, we should always remember that we are all still on indigenous land, and it will always be indigenous land. Um, Format of the meeting, we're all veterans here, so I guess be very quick. You hold up one finger, wave it in the air. I'll put you on the list. You can talk for 2 minutes. If you haven't been on the list at the end, at the wrap up, you will have your 2 minutes, but everyone who has spoken will have only 1 minute. We don't interrupt the speaker. If you have a clarifying question, 2 fingers, wave it around. And yeah, it's the clarifying question is not to say your piece. Get on the list if you want to say something in reaction to what they said, but it's not there to argue or to, jump on something and you know what I'm talking about. Okay. And only 2 people are allowed clarifying questions. So I think I'll get you to introduce yourselves first, and then I'll let you know why I brought this TED Talk. So, Phyllis.
Morning, I'm Phyllis. I've been coming to Erase since the summer of 2008, and I am in New Orleans.
Thank you. Beatrice.
Good morning. I'm Beatrice. I've been coming to Erase since '93 and living here in East Point outside Atlanta, and glad to be here.
Glad to have you, as always. Glenn. Assalamu alaikum, Glenn. Okie dokie. I guess we'll get back to him at some point. Okay, so the reason I bought this is that I feel Native people's plight is never really talked about or taught correctly in schools. Or the weird thing about this piece was that 40%, that's 40% of Americans think that Native people are extinct. They're not anymore. I mean, 40%, y'all. Like, that's crazy, right? And that's exact reason why I bring up, normally when I do a topic, a lot of the time it's Native peoples, because racism is not just a black white thing. Obviously, there's a lot deeper, a lot of it, and America's history is full of blood. It's anywho. So yeah, genocide happened. We don't really. There's no repercussions. Obviously, there's never been, and again, we're just not taught it in schools properly. As they say, the history is always taught by the victor. And how can we possibly move on without the truth? He says that in there too. How can we possibly move on without the truth in to do with any kind of racism in this country? And also in the 70s, man, this is my lifetime, y'all's lifetime. You know, in the 70s, women were forcibly sterilized. It leaves me speechless a lot, and which is good because I'm not going to do the talking. You are. So if you want to go on the list, please let me know. And I will start making a list. And hopefully some other people turn up for the meeting. Yay, Phyllis, go ahead.
Oh, here comes somebody. So I kind of knew, mainly probably from movies or television series, that, you know, the white people did scalping. I think it's a stereotype that the Indians, Native Americans were scalpers, but white people did it too, colonizers. And but I never heard of the corpse tags. I never heard about that level of it. And throughout listening to it, well, first I drove home listening to it and then watched it when I got home so I could see the art that he was showing. And it always helps to listen to something more than once. But I was struck by how the same, in different forms, but the same things are being done right now, especially to the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, who are also native people and have been colonized. Yeah, that's it for now.
Thank you. Yeah, the similarities are as horrifying as you can imagine, right? Anyone else want to get on the list? Beatrice, go ahead, sweetie.
I too was struck by a lot that was said in this TED Talk, a lot that you brought up in your introduction, Louise. But just some other things. 80% of the indigenous people live off the reservation, but that the poverty is so deep that even those that live off reservations are the poorest economically in the United States. And he said that is by design. So much that was brought out. It's just shameful. It's heartbreaking. And the tragedy is that people are not being taught the information correctly, fully. As he talked about his son, of course, coming home saying, how can you discover a place? How can somebody discover a place where people live? And, just more of the listening of meanness, of evil that has been done by colonialists to people who were living somewhere for thousands of years. It's heartbreaking. I mean, we know about the schools. He said 1879 or to the early 2000s, things that happened to the children who were taken away and from their families, the haircut, names changed, and they were abused. And when he talked about the children who were buried as unknowns, I mean, what? So you have tried to disappear people, and that is what he said when he talked about this is genocide. What has happened to his people is genocide. Of course, what is happening to Palestinians is genocide. And you just ask yourself, what can I do? What do I do? One thing is that we educate people, that we bring people, as he said, bring people indigenous people or native people forward so people can interact with them. And don't think little silly things like, well, he said, just calling, not calling yourself, not saying you're having a powwow or whatever. Don't think you need to erase that. Although I think it is important having changed the Redskins to the commandos. I don't know if it's the wrong word. But anyway, I just, there was a lot. I'll get back on, but there was a lot that he said that I found disturbing but informative. Thank you.
Thank you. Amal.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, very, very interesting and informative information that guy gave. I did not know about these tags. And you know, I thought I'd studied history very extensively, but this was very brand new for me. So I'm gonna have to do some more deeper study into it. But it was very informative to know that to know about this. And heartbreaking at the same time. And I don't want to make informative sound like that's a good thing, but it was good to know and not so it wouldn't be forgotten about. One of the interesting things that he said though is that these things could be bought online, and you can't even buy Nazi paraphernalia online. I don't know if many people heard that, but that was quite interesting to me that you could actually go online and this stuff is there to be bought and sold and like it's just a commodity. You know, it's not human beings. You know, this is just some regular commodity that's a part of history that you could just go online and buy. And that to me was quite interesting. Consider like I say, considering you can even do that, you can buy like a Nazi paraphernalia and things that happened during the Jewish Holocaust in World War II. So that was quite interesting to know that. Another thing that he mentioned that I thought was quite informative was that you know being that he have to have these conversations with his family, and they sit down at the dinner table and have these types of conversations and have his son have to go to school and be taught something so different. like here's Columbus discovering America. It was like, okay, so this is why I think more people need to get involved in terms of the educational system because these are the type of things that they're trying to change and make sure people don't don't be informed of. So that has to stop.
Here, here. Glenn, you're up.
Well, I don't disagree with anything that's been said, except for I have one uh, disagreement. Well, I have some suspicion on something. When he said that they're poor on the tribal land, they are poor, and away from them, where most of them live, and they still it's by design that they are poor. Uh, I don't see how it's something that's going on by design that they are poor. Uh, I know one thing: they got casinos where they're raking in millions and millions of dollars, uh, which they don't. I don't believe they got to pay any taxes on because it's on tribal land. Uh, and what's stopping those that live away from the reservation for not pooling their resources and supporting their businesses and you know bringing themselves up. So I don't know. He had to explain that to me. That is by design. And then sometimes people can we can get like the Jewish people, always saying Holocaust, Holocaust, and uh, to always take on the victimization type of thing. That's all I have to say for now.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. So, Phyllis, go ahead.
Well, I would say you think about the concept of generational wealth, which gets applied a lot of times in the conversations about families of the formerly enslaved in this country. The type of wealth that was valued by Native peoples was very not as tangible as what we think of when we think of wealth. The concept of like owning this many acres or owning this house or all those things. That they didn't have that. They didn't even have that. And there are, of course, systems in place to keep certain groups of people less educated, less trained, less valued as human beings, harder to get jobs. I imagine if you look a certain way and have a certain names in certain places, that's going to have an effect on what you can do. I don't believe that everybody has the opportunity to just rise above the circumstances imposed on them by this very unjust colonizer system that we live with. That's it. Thanks. Here comes somebody else.
So the list is open if you want that. While we wait for someone to jump on.
I'll say something.
Oh, okay.
As it relates to
and then Beatrice. Okay.
As it relates to something Glenn said, I don't think that people talking about their history and talking about the unjust circumstances that they people have um, been subjugated to in this society and continue to be subjugated to is victimization. I think that's a white supremacist talking point. So that we don't talk about that history that they're uncomfortable with. So the easy thing to say is to say, "Oh, you're taking on a victim's mentality."
Mm-hmm.
That's not a victim mentality. That's constantly reminding you, because once again, these type of things are being taken out of the educational system, and when kids don't know this, the idea is that we don't continue teaching this to remind this country of what it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so the white supremacist talking point is, oh no, that's a victim mentality. We shouldn't even be discussing that. That's not a victim mentality to remind an oppressor of his oppressive history. And we don't continue that behavior in the future with other societies like we're doing in Palestine right now. Now, let me take we out of it. I'm in white supremacy. So I got to get out of the habit of saying we, as well as I got to get out of the habit. And this is something I'm gonna blame myself for this. I got to get out of the habit because Beatrice brought it up of saying the Washington Redskins. I do admit that that's a habit I got to break. I understand it is the Washington Commanders, but it's a habit that I have to break because I don't want to continue on that road because I could slip up sometimes and do that. You know.
Okay, I do have. If we're still waiting for someone, I want to bring up 3 points actually that Amal you had, and your last one was.
Can I just say, Louise Leonetta is in the room.
Okay.
You see her?
Hey, Leonetta, welcome. And the list is open, by the way, if you want.
Morning, everybody. I wanted to look at the video before I got on. So that's why.
Okay. Do you want to get on now or?
Well, I'll wait.
Oh, Beatrice, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm so sorry, honey. Gosh. Go ahead.
wanted to thank them all the points that you made. I certainly do support the concept of not allowing a group to be called victims because they require us to remember what has happened to them. One of the points, I think a main point that the TED talk I made was that there was a concerted effort to eliminate an entire people. And if you just look at that phrase and begin to look at what happened when the colonialists came to this country, how the indigenous people were treated, and then as the speaker talked about the 5 actions that are required in order for something to be genocide, every one of them. First of all, the killing of the people, serious bodily harm to them, in inflicting diseases upon them, transferring them to their children to other people, that just the process of trying to eliminate an entire group of people, and then to not teach the history correctly, the information about Thanksgiving, forgetting how people were treated, how people were killed, how the indigenous, after they had helped the pilgrims survive. The whole story, it is just of great concern that there are people who are now wanting to teach the American story as if it has always been a romantically beautiful story where dear, kind, religious people fleeing whatever they were fleeing, sometime religious I can't think of the word, they were being hurt because of their religion or their potato famine, something had happened, they had to leave, and they came here and everything was just wonderful. This is not the story. We cannot allow children to learn this story because it is not the true narrative. And there's much of the history of this country that resulted from selfishness, greed, evil, disrespect of human life. And we cannot allow those stories to continue to be told. And real quick, and I might have to come back. I'll come back.
Sorry. Yeah, you're back. Glenn, you're up. Glenn, you had your hand up.
Okay. Yes, I did. And I as a my ancestor was in slavery, and I'm over that. And Jim Crow era, I'm over that. I lived in the Jim Crow era, and I'm over it. Uh, Now, that don't mean because I'm over it. I'm not emotionally affected by it anymore. Uh, doesn't mean that I don't want it in the history book. I want all that in the history. I want what happened to the Indians. I want what happened to the Chinese. I want the totally American history in our school books. Yeah, but I'm not going to keep moaning over the past. I'm looking to a future. I'm in a land of plenty. I have the opportunity is open up for me in my race. It's open up. We once said, "Oh, we'll never be president of the United States." Yeah, now we didn't got there. We didn't got to where we govern. We have been governors. We've been mayors. We've been city council. Been police chief. We've been over the military of this country. So look, I'm not looking in the past. I want it in the history books where it belongs, in history, not living it in 2025, not reliving it in my heart and my soul.
Gotcha.
That's it.
Okay, dokes. Thanks. There's a clarifying question from Phyllis for you, Glenn.
Glenn, can you consider that your experience is different from other people's experiences of even other Black people, not just Native Americans, that they might experience things differently than you do have?
Well, my experience is aligned with all other African American experience. My experience with the majority of what happened, my experience been the same. Now, uh, uh, but now I how I am affected mentally by it, and how each one of us are affected by it mentally, and who we listen to, who we listen to, who leads us, who is leading us, that has a bearing on how we are affected by certain things.
Okay, thank you. Does question, Phyllis? Not really. Um, I have a clarifying
Oh,
question.
I was gonna say I had one too, but go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. Go ahead.
So my clarifying, my question would be this: you said you didn't want to consistently relive the past and bring it into 2025, but you do want it in the history books and so on and so forth. So my question is, based on what the Native American guy said, is that past really the past, or is they still living it today?
Hmm. Glenn, do you have an answer for him? Glenn, really?
Oh, I didn't know I was muted. Okay.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah. Now you saying are they still living, being scalped, and all that kind of stuff? What are you talking about?
No, I'm not talking about being scared. I'm talking about any form of injustice that they
Oh,
may have.
look. Uh, there will always be injustice in the world. This won't be. The earth is not populated by angels; it's populated by men. So there always will be injustices. That's my answer.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. My clarifying question. I know we're only allowed two. Was
Well, don't break the rule. Don't break the rule.
that's true. Okay, I won't. Um, so the list is open. By the way, did Leonetta? Did you want to get on? Bit? I keep doing that to you, Beatrice. I'm so sorry.
I just put my finger up. You didn't leave me out, baby.
Well, I knew you wanted to go on after Glenn. Anyway, go ahead, Don. Go ahead. I'm
Well,
so
I
sorry.
was just
And I'll
getting.
go on after Beatrice.
And you want on Leonetta? I got you.
After Beatrice.
Yeah, I got you.
I just wanted to talk about the importance of art. We had talked about that a couple of weeks ago, and I think how important it was for him to show his art. That triptych he showed, where he showed the different, the corpse tag and the handcuffs and things, that to have to have art tell a story is a significant story. I mean, we're not going to forget. I had not heard of the corpse tag, but just the very idea, as Amal mentioned again, that one can buy this on eBay. Like, this is it's just unbelievable. So I thought that the art, or his showing art, was important. The piece of art that he showed, where he had the white sides showing how white society creates who the indigenous people are. And then another thing is that when somebody makes any human being less than a human being, then it's okay to treat them anyway. And that is exactly what happened to the indigenous people. He talked about 1864, that Sand Creek massacre, where not only were the people killed, but the soldiers went down and mutilated them, so nobody could tell how many people there were. How do you do that? You've killed people. So they're shooting the people in Gaza trying to get food. But you've already killed somebody. Now you're going to cut them up so nobody knows who they are. Then you've decided this is not a human being. This is less than a human being. How can anybody ever make that decision? You have to do better and treat people. And there is a legacy of people's history. There is blood memory. So to say that something was in the past, it never is. The past is never the past, especially when it includes your people having been uh, demonized and killed. So we have to continue.
Thank you, Beatrice. Leonetta, go ahead.
Yes, I watched the video and it really brought a tear to my eye. about these tags. I never knew that that ever happened. That there was bounties for Native Americans. And when he said about the Thanksgiving, I remember being taught that in school about the Thanksgiving and as I got older, I realized about the Pilgrims killed the Indians after they had helped them to survive that first winter here in the United States. And I also wanted to ask Amal, I mean, Glenn, him wanting the what happened in the past to put it in history books. Don't you want what's in the history books to be correct? Not only just put it in there, but to have it correct exactly what happened. That's the issue that I have with what's going on with this administration because they want to change what happened in the past. They want to make it flowery and all pretty and everything. But American history is not that. It was cruel, it was mean, it was ugly, and the children in school need to learn it all. They need to learn it correctly. They need to learn what their ancestors did. And I'm sorry, little white children to feel uncomfortable about it. That's what happened. And they need to know the whole truth, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, totally agreed. Thank you, Leonetta. The floor is open if anyone wants to jump in. Phyllis, thank you.
Well, history repeats itself. And right now we have a situation where we don't know who all the people are who are calling themselves ICE officers. There's speculation that some of them are bounty hunters. And we don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes with that organization because, of course, there's repression of information. But it wouldn't surprise me if we find out someday that those people were getting some sort of reward for the number of people they pick up off the street. And they're doing it illegally without warrants a lot of times and very violently. Oh, my cat was on the screen. And people will look away as long as they think the people that are their own group of people isn't being targeted. Thankfully, some people who aren't in the targeted groups are trying to be defenders. And I saw one video from, I think, Kansas City of there's a rapid response group who, if they get a call that ICE is trying to do something somewhere, they will mobilize and go to that place. And the video I saw, they kind of ran off the alleged ICE men because they didn't want to be on camera. They kind of panicked, the ICE people. So history repeats, and because the colonizers have the same playbook. That's it for now. I'm sure I'll have more to say.
Thank you, Phyllis. List is open if anyone would like to.
Yeah, I'll go
All right.
on.
So
No,
Amal, and then what was the other voice?
That was Glenn's voice.
Oh, okay. So Amal and then Glenn. Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
I think, like I said, I think we're talking about these things as if this was a long time ago. This was not that long ago, and so to dismiss it like it was just so in the past that we don't need to talk about it now because it's not happening. No, things like this, it might not. The white supremacist mentality hasn't went anywhere. And to chalk it down and to say that, well, there's going to always be injustices in the world. Okay, no problem. Then I'm gonna keep on fighting it, and I'm gonna keep talking about it. If it's just not going to go anywhere, then that means that people like us just still need to exist. We need to be fighting it and talking about it. And then it ain't a long time ago and in the past. It's presently happening. We seen what happened to that young man in his car in Florida. pulled out his gun, punched in the face, you know, and I mean, for when it wasn't even raining, for what he was pulled over for. Um, I think this happened in North Carolina. I just saw this. There was a guy who was a trucker, and he went to dump some stuff into a landfill. And the guys, the white guys who worked in the landfill, the way they ran, it was almost like they was coming at this guy like they were going to lynch him. And good, thank God he had his phone to where he could record things and get their faces. You know that's the difference. You know, we could put people on blast these days. You know, versus from a long time ago when people just didn't have cameras, and you know, for a long time, black people said we've been abused by the police. Nobody believed it until they saw Rodney King. You know, it's like so the technology has made it to where we could show it to you, and even in showing it to you, you still look at us like we did something wrong. You know, so that's the problem, is that every time something happens, the victim of the thing is looked at like, hey, you could have did this different. You should have complied. You should have did that. You know, it's never nothing about what the victimizers should do different. It's always about what the victim should do different.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been the unfortunate history, is that the people who are victims of oppression have not been heard. And then when they start to riot and act a fool, you say, well, look at them. Look, you see how they act? Look at them. No, no, I think it was Martin Luther King said a riot is nothing but the voice of the unheard. That's the way people who don't feel like they're being heard react. They riot. So these things are not things of the past, or things that happened a long time ago. These things are happening right now, and this guy outlined history that is uncomfortable for white supremacy. And I need him to continue talking like that, because he informed me with these tags. I had no idea that they existed.
Thank you, Amal. Uh, Glenn.
All right. Hard for you to say, huh? All right.
No.
Okay. Now, uh, Phyllis was saying that they're using the same old playbook. They, 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 they certainly are using the same old playbook. But just like Jamal just said, they got cameras now.
Amal. His name is Amal.
Oh, I'm sorry,
He's been
Amal.
coming for years, since the early 90s.
Will you let me finish my? Are you still clocking me and you interfering with me?
I'm going to add a whole nother little bit onto your time. Go ahead, brother. I'm
Oh
just added.
Lord,
I just added way more. Go ahead.
Lord. All right. Uh, the yeah, they have cameras now. Now, the colonial. When we think of colonial people, we think about the European race coming into a indigenous place where it was Africans or dark skinned people, and they force them out through violence. And that's what happened to the Indian, because the Indians wouldn't, first of all, they wouldn't accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. If you can accept Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior, then the white people can be safe around you, because you are accepting this white man as being God. All right. So they didn't accept this. So they had to be exterminated. All right. Now here, but if you look at the record of colonialism, they had to get out of Kenya, they had to get out of Rhodesia, they had to get out of well, all over Africa. They had to leave. They couldn't hold on to it anymore. Uh, so here you got somebody trying to reverse the trend of history. That's Israel. They're not going to be successful, especially when you got cameras showing skeletal people, and you got them showing that they're building concentration camps for them. The same thing that happens, it just, I mean, the people of the world are irate over this. But the reason that they have been able to do it thus far, because the European leaders were guilty of being colonialists. They didn't done it. They don't have no feelings about it. But their citizens do have feelings about it. And that's my point I'm making.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. Um, the list is open. If you like, I think the reason I was stumbling on your name, Glenn, was because my brain was thinking I wanted to thank Amal because I've never heard that Martin Luther King statement of a riot is just, what is it? A riot is
It's the voice of the unheard.
the voice of the unheard. That's
Yeah.
great. I've never heard that. So that's why I was stumbling, because my brain is very slow now that I'm an old lady, and and it was nothing to do with you. So would anyone else like to be on the list? It is open. We have, hold on, what time is it now? We have a little bit. I mean, obviously we can stop early um, if you would like. So I do have a few things that I wanted to say, but is there anyone else that wants to jump on? Phyllis, go ahead.
Well, I'm sure no one here thinks, well, there's two things. If you look into what is called the Irish potato famine, you will see that it was not a famine in the way we think of famine, where there's just some uh, our agricultural collapse. It was purposeful. The British uh, were very oppressive to the Irish, and they looked at them the way colonizers look at what we now think of as people of color, like not smart enough, or not as smart, not as intelligent, not as human. And so things were done that kept them hungry that didn't have to be done because the British wanted to have profit. Um, and I think that is why you see a lot of Irish people with so much solidarity with the Palestinians, especially now that they are in stage 5 of a famine slash mass starvation on purpose, because they've been colonized and treated the same way. And Israel, the people prior to the foundation of Israel, there were Jewish people, Jewish Arabs living in Palestine alongside the Muslims and the Christian Arabs. And when the European Zionists came, they did not have that same impulse to live side by side as neighbors. They wanted the whole land for only Zionist slash Jewish people. Although they don't treat non-Zionist Jewish people there very well these days. So I think it's important to remember that Israel is a European colony to benefit especially the UK and the US.
Thank you, Phyllis. So if no one else wants to talk, I can do the wrap up with all of y'all, and then I can give my little ending words. Is everyone okay with that?
No.
Okay, then go ahead. You want to go on? Go ahead.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Well, do you want to or not? I mean, if you have something else to say, please say it.
He said he was kidding.
Oh, that's hysterical. I'll write that one down for a future reference. All right. So everyone else now has a minute, and I will start with Phyllis.
Well, one of the most disturbing things that I have heard about recently in terms of Palestine is that the medical people report that they see, like, one day the injuries might all be to this part of the body, and then another day the injuries might be to a different part of the body from the day before, like gunshots. And they speculate there is some sort of a game going on where, like, a challenge amongst the IOF terrorists, where they designate a body part, and sometimes the body part is limbs. It's not head, it's not chest. Which is interesting to me because we had that discussion a long, long time ago about cops being trained to target. Can I have 2 minutes?
Oh, look, no, you keep going. Do you know what? I'm going to do 2 minutes for wrap up.
Thank you. To target the biggest part of the body so that they make sure they hit something. But if you're aiming at legs and arms, that's a little different. One of the things they are aiming at is in teenage boys, they're shooting their testicles.
Oh.
And that is a way to keep gay people from reproducing, from having more babies, plus killing all the pregnant women, and letting babies starve to death. They're killing a whole generation of Palestinians, maybe more than one generation. And I think part of the reason Americans in this country some don't fully want to be opposed to this is because I think they sense the parallel to what we did to Native Americans. And it's almost like how can you criticize what they're doing if you haven't fully acknowledged what we've done to the Native people of our land? I think you can acknowledge it all at once, personally. So thanks for this video. It was very educational. And
Thank you.
There's always more we don't know that we don't know.
For sure, right. Thank you, Phyllis. The next on my screen is Beatrice. 2 minutes.
Just thanks again for the video and the conversation, everyone. Just some closing words that the speaker had, that we need to be aware of the way that the government has treated Indigenous people, and that we not forget the sins of the past, that we need to learn, that non-Native people need to learn from Native people, and he's a perfect example of how we can continue to get information, and that we deserve to know the truth. I think the irony of white people wanting to be isolated from the pain of people of color is that you do yourself a disservice. You do yourself a disservice by trying to perpetuate a narrative that is untrue, and trying to create a world where white people and their needs and their viewpoints are of greater value than anyone's. This is you're living in a fantasy land, and one day you're gonna wake up and be crazier than you already are. Another thing that the speaker said, that we need to understand the brutal history of the colonials, and we need to take actions to repair them. See, that word repair, we don't want to talk about. Many people do not want to talk about reparations, repair, but you can't there needs to be an assuaging of the American conscience of the great sins of the past. We just cannot keep moving forward and be emotionally healthy if you do not admit when you've done something wrong. And that's true in interpersonal relationships, that's true with your friends. You cannot move forward. And so we're going to always stumble in this country. We're going to stumble and collapse and fall and wonder what happened to it, because we will not deal with the past. And it is Mr. Man up in the White House wants to have the people never mind.
No, go ahead, finish that one thought.
The people at the national parks erase everything that disparages, he says, the United States.
Yeah.
Heaven help us.
So, Beatrice, I would vote for you for president. So, Leonetta, 2 minutes.
Thank you so much for picking this article. I learned a lot of stuff I did not know that went on with Native Americans. And I'm with Beatrice for erasing this administration for trying to erase the history. We got to be very vigilant. I know this group, we are be very vigilant. A lot of organizations that I belong to, we are being very vigilant about what this administration is trying to do about the history of this country. It cannot be whitewashed. The truth has to be preserved. We've got to make sure that the true history of this country is being told, being preserved. It wasn't nice. It wasn't sweet. It wasn't cute. It wasn't none of that. It was brutal. It was ugly. It was painful. And it needs to be told. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonetta. Too true. Amal?
Yeah, this was like I said, very informative for me because I got to go and do some studying on this because I really did not know this existed, and this goes to show that how history could continue to unfold in front of your face when you really when you really thought you knew. You really don't know. So I got to go back and do some studying. What's interesting, I took it upon myself after I watched that particular TED Talk video to watch some of the others that were with other Native American peoples who were on the roster. And it's interesting because they're all telling pretty much the same story. They're using different words and different artistic ways to express it, but they're all telling the same story nevertheless. And one of the things that I found interesting, there was one young lady, she was like, when she did her introduction, she looked at the audience and said, like, yes, I'm really Native American. We didn't go extinct. Like, we're here. They didn't kill us all. Or try to starve us all, or diseased us all out, or whatever the form of genocide that was being used at the time to annihilate or destroy Native Americans off the face of the planet. The lady was like, no, we're still here. We're not gone anywhere. And I think that's one of the things that's interesting is that I think a lot of people really believe that narrative that all Native Americans was just wiped out. They're gone, which makes it easy to ignore their plight in this country because, like, after all, y'all don't exist. Like, the lady was like, people would sometimes walk up to him like, "Are you really Native American? Like, for real? Like, I thought you guys were gone." It was almost like that these Native Americans just don't exist. And like I said, it makes it easy to ignore their plight and to ignore their history when you believe that a people have been extinct or annihilated, like a saber-tooth tiger or something. So it's that mentality that persists in this society that makes it easy for us to ignore the Native Americans and their plight in their history, because once again, this is not taught in schools.
Amal, I don't think you had joined us when that was my main thing, which surprised me that I never knew about, that 40% of Americans,
Yes,
almost half
absolutely.
Americans think, I mean, that is a mind-boggling. I knew there was a few that thought, but 40%, wow.
10% is too much. It's just the
Yeah,
idea.
right.
40%
40% is
astronomical.
that is
Exactly.
Amal, thank you so much. Last word, Glenn, would you believe? Go ahead. 2 minutes if you
But
want it.
yeah, sure, I'll take it. You
Mhm.
didn't tell nobody else that if you want it. Uh, prejudice, Uh, when
I know you're joking, Glenn, but sometimes it's just not funny. Anyway, go ahead. You got 2 minutes, and I've added on extra time for that little comment I just made.
all right, I'm looking at Israel because it's similar. The Indians, Israel, the Palestinians. Uh, Sometimes a lot of life has to be lost in order to get your freedom. Uh, willing to, the Palestinians are sacrificing. They're going through a horrible, horrible time, and but they're going to be victorious. Israel was a place where Jews thought they would be safe. It is no longer a safe place for Jews, and the economy is suffering. Jews are leaving there. They think 1 million and left already. They only got 7 million over there, and the the army are the same people that run the economy. They normally they were built for 6 day wars, not no 2 year war. So they're this colonial thing is coming to an end, and that's my opinion.
I wish. All right, thank you. Um, so thank you, everybody. I do want to, as you know, you write down all of these little notes that you try to decipher at the end. Um, but I think, Amal, I want to address yours first, which was you said a few things. You said it's a habit that you have that you keep calling the Redskins team. And that's the whole point, isn't it? It's a habit that we all have because from our learning, from our being taught, that's the habit. It's ingrained in us, to think of Native Americans in that way or not think about them in that way, which is more the point. They're not even on the radar of history with us, really, apart from the lovely Thanksgiving feast. That was lovely, wasn't it? They're so lovely. And that's it. That's all people know or understand about it. And that just makes my blood boil so hard. And I love coming from you, Amal, someone who does do research and really enjoys researching the truth, to say you didn't know about certain things, that's something else. So just think of the average person, your average person that doesn't do half as much as research as you, how much they know and don't know, obviously. And the fact that you can buy stuff online, yeah, unfortunately, eBay, you can buy anything, right? And it's disgusting that you're buying people's lives, people's past, people's torture, people's, you know, uh, suffering online. And I want to quickly jump to Glenn when you said, hey, they've got casinos, right? They must all make money from that. I mean, that is such, I'd be, sometimes I feel that you're white, Glenn. I need to see your face because I swear to God, the comments you make sometimes are outrageous. And I think that's one of them, casino. They've got casinos. They all make money out of that. They need to just get it together. Sorry, that's just, I can't do that. And the truth, Leonetta, yes, absolutely, they need to learn. And especially, how can we ever move on without the truth? That's the whole point. How can we move on? We can't repair, as you say, Beatrice, we can't repair until we all know the truth, the real truth. And it's not being learned. It's not being talked about. It's um, and of course, what's happening now in Palestine, it makes you think, will that ever friggin' happen? Who's shouting about this? There's finally a little bit of movement towards justice, teeny bit. But are there going to be any Palestinians left? It's so horrific, and it shows how white colonialism is. It's a cancer, and it's, I don't know, leaves me speechless. Obviously, I have no words for that. And as for the Israelis doing that, I didn't hear about that, Phyllis, about each day they make a different body part or something. How friggin' disgusting is that? And I really believe that, and I feel sorry for the Israelis in a way. Back to education, they are so so brainwashed and so taught that the Palestinians are animals, that anyone, Arabs are animals. All they want to do is destroy us, that these young men, younger than my son even, are going out and doing these horrific things to people because they are convinced, brainwashed into that. So again, Leonetta, back to education. We all need to learn the truth for it. And one last thing, sorry. It was in the 1700s that they made names for different races, Caucasian, Mongoloid, etc., right? They didn't have one for the Native Americans because they were going to wipe them all out and knew that they weren't going to even exist. So they didn't even have a name for that race. Let that sink in. Anywho, great chat to y'all, and I appreciate you all, and thank you.
Great job.